So now we're on to the fourth quality of Abdu'l-Baha. I'll read you a story and maybe we can figure out what it is from this story. This comes from a pilgrim who visited Abdu'l-Baha in 1909 before his travels. Her name was May Woodcock. She said that the thing that struck her the most when they got to Akkon pilgrimage is that they found Abdu'l-Baha was under tremendous burdens. And so she asked him, how could we lighten his burden? And he said, there is one way that you can lighten my burden. What do you think that way was? Teach the faith? Teach the cause? What else do you think? He said this. He said, the only way that we could lighten his burden was by being in perfect unity amongst ourselves. To be in unity. This was the only thing we could do to lighten Abdu'l-Baha's burden. And so she went back to the United States in 1909, and in 1910, Abdu'l-Baha finally became free, and he traveled to Egypt. And when Abdu'l-Baha traveled to Egypt, first time in his life he was able to travel and not be an exile or a prisoner, the Baha'is in America got very excited because they realized that if Abdu'l-Baha could come out of Palestine, well, maybe he could come to the United States. So they got together and they sent a letter to Abdu'l-Baha inviting him to the United States. And what they did was they agreed that one local assembly, the local assembly of Chicago, would write this letter to Abdu'l-Baha inviting him to come. And in December of 1910, Abdu'l-Baha wrote a response back to that letter. And I want to read that to you. He says, to the members of the assemblies of the Baha'is in America, to the beloved ones and maidservants of the merciful, He is God. O ye dear friends and maidservants of God, your epistle was received. You have expressed joy and happiness because of the trip of Abdu'l-Baha from the center of prison, Akka, to the land of divine Joseph, Egypt. There are divine wisdoms in this journey. I am hopeful that it will be productive of results. Now, praise be to God, some time has passed with the utmost of spirit and fragrance in this country, and we are occupied with the service of the cause of God and servitude to the holy threshold. When the service, which is our present purpose, is realized for the kingdom of God, perhaps we shall journey to other parts. And he goes on to say this. He says, if the beloved of God in all America strive for unity and harmony, attain perfect love and accord, and act according to the divine teachings and the precepts of the blessed perfection, this will prove a magnet, attracting Abdu'l-Baha, so that perchance he may journey to America. But until the light of oneness, unity, and love shine forth from the lamp of America, and the beloved act in accordance with the divine teachings and precepts of the blessed perfection, and all the believers in America become united and harmonious, my coming to America will be hindered, nay, impossible. And this must have been shocking to the Baha'is. They wrote him and said, please come. He said, maybe I'll come. If you're united, I may come. If you're disunited, it's impossible for me to come. And I would have thought, well, hold on. If we're disunited, he would come quicker to unite us. And so then he goes on and says, therefore, strive ye that ye may become the embodied teachings of the blessed perfection, confirmed in the divine precepts, resurrected in holiness and purity, severance, humility, and meekness, set aglow with the fire of divine love, and loosen your tongues with the praises and commendations of the heavenly kingdom. Thus may the great attainment be realized. Upon you be Baha'u'llah el-Abha, signed Abdu'l-Baha Abbas. And so I'm thinking this is so interesting that Abdu'l-Baha made it a condition for coming to America that they were united first. He would not come if they weren't united. He said, my invitation to America will be the unity of the believers. Don't send me a written invitation. My invitation is your unity. And so I'm wondering when he finally decided to come to America. I don't know exactly when he announced it, but I want to skip to when he was leaving America, because now we know what he said before coming. This is his farewell address to the Baha'is of Chicago on May 5th of 1912. He says, "I am going away, but you must arise to serve the Word of God. Be in perfect unity." See, this is before coming, he wants them in unity, and as he's leaving, his final words are, "Be in perfect unity." He says, "Never become angry with one another. Let your eyes be directed toward the kingdom of truth and not toward the world of creation. Love the creatures for the sake of God and not for themselves. Humanity is not perfect. There are imperfections in every human being, and you will always become unhappy if you look towards the people themselves. But if you look toward God, you will love them and be kind to them. For the world of God is the world of perfection and complete mercy. Therefore, do not look at the shortcomings of anybody. See with the sight of forgiveness." Have you noticed all the things he's saying right here? He's talking about unity, he's talking about happiness, he's talking about forgiveness, and he's talking about not seeing the shortcomings of people. And these are the first four things we've talked about. Abdu'l-Baha knew what we needed. He knew we needed to be happy. He knew we needed to not look at the shortcomings of people. He knew we needed to act with forgiveness, but most of all, he wanted us to be united. And when he was in America, he explained unity in such a way that completely changed our consciousness of what unity is. A lot of us think that unity is kind of like holding hands and singing Kumbaya. It's some kind of happy little thing where we all hug and so on. But to Abdu'l-Baha, unity was the most important power in all of creation. In fact, he even went so far as to say that love, unity, cohesion was the source of creation, and that you can see the power of love and the power of unity in every part of creation, from the tiniest atom to the way it clings together with the atomic forces, to atoms bonding to becoming molecules, to the earth and to the stars and nebula and galaxy. Everything he said in creation is held together by love, but the way he describes love is that love is synonymous with life and synonymous with unity. They're all one and the same thing to Abdu'l-Baha, because to Abdu'l-Baha, love, cohesion, unity, and life, all of these things are one and the same thing. And Abdu'l-Baha said this. He said, where there is life, there is cohesion and attraction, and where there is death, there's decomposition. Because to Abdu'l-Baha, any time you see unity, you're seeing life. If you see a united family, you're seeing life. If you see a united community or united marriage, united workplace, united city, you're seeing life. But if you see a marriage falling apart, you're seeing death. If you see a community that is disunited, it is death. And to Abdu'l-Baha, these things were one and the same thing. And so he knew that America was a lifeless body of Baha'is until such time as they united. Now we know in the physical world that unity has strange powers. We, the scientists, know this, whether we know this in chemistry, we know this in physics, we know this in biology, molecular biology, and so on. For example, I told you a story a few years ago here at this school about how humans first discovered metals. You know, metals are often compared to humans. Baha'u'llah often refers to us as metals because metals have certain qualities like humans. They can be shaped into any shape and various other qualities. And it so happens there's a very soft metal called copper, and it's so soft that you can bend it easily. If you take copper wire, you can pull it like a rubber band. You can only pretty much make artwork and some bowls out of it. But because it's so soft, it was one of the first metals that humans discovered because they could easily extract it from rocks. And then later they discovered an even softer metal called tin. And pure tin is just like paper. It's considerably weaker than copper. And somebody got a brilliant idea around 3,500 BC to melt some copper and to melt some tin and mix them together. This is a pretty stupid idea, if you ask me. You got this weak substance and you add it to a weaker thing. And it created something called bronze, which is many times stronger than copper. And this makes no sense. How can you take a weak metal, combine it and unite it with something that's weaker, and it creates something that's stronger than both of them? But this is a principle that science knows is the power of unity and diversity. We know it now as metallic bonding, as a very special bond, and we actually know the reasons for it. But it so happens that unity and diversity, creating strength, even exists in the physical world. Now you say to me, well, that's a nice story, Tom. Why are you telling me that? Well, I'll tell you why I'm telling you. Because we mark all of human history by this discovery. All of human history. In fact, we mark prehistory of human beings into 3 ages: the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and then the Iron Age. And why do we do that? Because this one discovery of unity and diversity in the metallurgic realm, this one discovery completely changed every aspect of human civilization. Everything changed because things that could not have been done before were suddenly possible by this one discovery. Now, might it not also be the same that when we discover the power of unity and diversity in the human realm, that also a new age in human history will come? That things that were not possible before will suddenly become possible because we realize that there is strength in diversity that the physical world teaches us. For example, the simplest atom, the lightest atom in the universe, hydrogen. Everyone knows hydrogen. It's the first atom, and it's out there. And it's primarily an atom we associate with fire because it burns. It's all it does. If you look at the sun, it's just burning hydrogen. Hydrogen is the mother of all fires, and that's what hydrogen is. And we have this other atom, it's called oxygen, the oxygen atom. And also that's associated with fire. In fact, fire cannot live without oxygen here on Earth. You take oxygen away and the fire goes out. Look at the space shuttle. When it's taking off, it's liquid oxygen because it's so flammable. Ask me, I'd say never put those two together. But every now and then in physical creation, the hydrogen atom and the oxygen atom, they kind of get together and they unite and they bond. And they create a substance called water. Water, which puts out fire and is life-giving and has qualities which neither hydrogen nor oxygen have. Isn't this remarkable? And it's the same thing with human beings, that when we unite, we transform and we acquire qualities which none of us would have without unity, because the physical world is teaching us over and over and over again that unity has power. Unity is the force that will unite the world. This is why Baha'u'llah says, so powerful is the light of unity that it can envelop the earth. And when he says that so powerful is the light of unity, it really struck me because I do not associate unity with light. If you asked me to make a symbol for unity, I would not have intuitively picked light. I would say glue. So powerful is the glue of unity that it can stick together the earth or something. But why is it light? And that is because unity has certain powers, according to Abdu'l-Baha, that we don't really understand. Now, it so happens that Abdu'l-Baha told us what would be conducive to unity. He said something, and he said, I suggest to you that if you do this thing, it will be greatly conducive to your unity, to the harmony of your association. What do you think that thing was? You want me to tell you what he said? It says here, one day Abdu'l-Baha was with a group of friends under a grove tree near Lake Michigan. And he suddenly turned to the friends and he said, some of you may have observed that I have not called attention to any of your individual shortcomings. He said, I would suggest to you that if you shall be similarly considerate in your treatment of each other, it will be greatly conducive to the harmony of your association with each other. Just don't call attention to their shortcomings. Isn't that so simple? Now, the interesting thing about Abdu'l-Baha is that to him, he valued unity over being right. We think that it is our right to express ourselves, and if we think we are right, we must push that and push that and push that, because that is something we have been brought up and trained to do. And Abdu'l-Baha, he said, no, do not value anything over unity, and certainly do not value being right over unity. And so he tried to discuss, as you said, consultation with the Baha'is, and he said, if we agree on subjects in consultation, even though it's wrong, that is better than to disagree and be right, because one will be the cause of 1,000 wrongs, and the other, if we're in unity, the right way will be found. He told a story to the American Baha'is about some Persian believers in the time of Baha'u'llah, who were arguing and disputing over the station of the Blessed Beauty. And so they wrote to Baha'u'llah, and they said, this is what they believe, and this is what they believe. Who's right? And Baha'u'llah writes back and says, if you both agree, you're both right. And if you disagree, you're both wrong. And I read that with my American upbringing, and I was furious, because it made no sense. Come on, Baha'u'llah, take a stand. Who's right? Who's right? Somebody's got to be right, someone's got to be wrong, because that's how I think, that's how my brain thinks, somebody's right. And then finally it hit me. This is the most profound concept. Unity is right. Unity is right. And this actually is the whole purpose of the Baha'i revelation. We might think, let's solve all the world's problems. Let's solve hunger. Let's solve economic problems. Let's solve warfare. Let's solve the environmental problems. And maybe down the end of the line, we'll unite. And Baha'u'llah says, no, it's the other way around. Unite first, and then you can easily solve these problems. Because he said, God is like a doctor that has his finger on the pulse of humanity, and he diagnoses the disease and prescribes a remedy. And he says, be anxiously concerned with the needs of the age in which you live in. And the needs of the age in which we live in is unity. So this is why Abdu'l-Baha wanted us to bring unity. And if we cannot bring unity to our Baha'i communities, we cannot transform the world. We cannot bring life to the world. We cannot change the world. And this is the primary goal of the Baha'i faith, that you need to go home and say unity is more important than anything else. And now, as I see what the House of Justice is talking about, what we're trying to do in the 5-year plan, if you read it very carefully, you realize that they're trying to get us to create life itself in the world, to create life by creating unity amongst ourselves. Because if you look at physical life, you'll find that it attracts. It attracts. What is soil? Soil is just dead, decomposed, former life that's decomposing. And what are plants? They're alive. And plants attract the soil. They attract the minerals. And so also will our unity attract all of the elements of society that are decomposing. This is the solution to the world's problems. And so we need to find a way to have absolute love and affection between assemblies and individuals. We need to have love and affection between individuals and assemblies and communities. This is the work that Abdu'l-Baha wanted. This is the primary teaching of the Baha'i faith. In fact, Shoghi Effendi said that unity is the pivotal principle of the Baha'i faith. What does pivotal mean? It means everything else revolves around it. Baha'u'llah wrote a tablet, and I want to read this to you. It's a tablet about unity. And he says this: the most great name beareth me witness. How sad if any man were in this day to rest his heart on the transitory things of this world. Arise and cling firmly to the cause of God. Be most loving to one another. Burn away, wholly for the sake of the well-beloved, the veil of self with the flame of the undying fire, and with faces joyous and beaming with light, associate with your neighbor. Ye know full well how hard it is for this youth to allow, though it be for one night, the heart of any one of the beloved of God to be saddened by him. Then he says, the word of God hath set the heart of the world afire. How regrettable if ye fail to be enkindled with its flame. Please God, ye will regard this blessed night as the night of unity. Will knit your souls together. Isn't that beautiful? What is knitting? What is knitting exactly? When you knit, what do? You weave things in and out, and isn't it amazing? And he wants us to knit our souls together. He says, please God, you will regard this blessed night as the night of unity. Will knit your souls together and resolve to adorn yourselves with an ornament of a goodly and praiseworthy character. Your behavior toward your neighbor should be such as to manifest clearly the signs of the one true God. For ye are the first among men to be recreated by his Spirit. And then I couldn't believe this when he said this, because now he turns to us and he says, you are the first. You are the first. And every time I read this passage, it seems to remind me of roosters. I don't know why it reminds me of roosters, but actually I do know why. Because I lived for many months at a time up in the highlands of Papua New Guinea, in a place where they have no electricity. And so consequently, you have to live by the sun. You go to sleep when the sun goes down and you wake up when the sun rises. But every time in the morning that rooster crows, it is dead black. I cannot figure it out. You're sleeping and you hear that darn rooster, and he's crowing right near the hut, and you look out and it's completely black. Of course, you know in 15 or 20 minutes it's going to, but you say, how does that rooster know? How does he know? It's an amazing thing. Has anybody ever experienced this? It's amazing, the quality of the rooster, because there's no light there at all, but somehow it detects it. It detects it. And we are in a darkened world. And Baha'u'llah is saying we are like spiritual roosters. That we, somehow in this darkened world, when everybody else can't see it, we do this. And what does a rooster do? He crows. And he tells everybody, and he wakes the world up because he's ahead. He's ahead. Dawn is an interesting time because the world is completely dark. When he talks about the dawn breakers, I like to think about those periods with the rooster crowing, because in dawn it's completely dark. And so Baha'u'llah is referring to us as spiritual roosters. He says here, ye are the first among men to be recreated by his Spirit, the first to adore and bow the knee before him, the first to circle round his throne of glory. I swear by him who hath caused me to reveal whatever hath pleased him. Ye are better known to the inmates of the kingdom on high than ye are known to your own selves. And when I read that, I think, is Baha'u'llah exaggerating here? I'm known better to the kingdom on high than I know myself? And then Baha'u'llah answers my question. He says, think ye these words to be vain and empty? He says, would that ye had the power to perceive the things your Lord, the All-Merciful, doth see, things that attest the excellence of your rank, that bear witness to the greatness of your worth, that proclaim the sublimity of your station. God grant that your desires and unmortified passions may not hinder you from that which hath been ordained for you. And so Baha'u'llah is calling upon us to realize our special destiny. He's chosen you and made you the first. And what he wants you to do is to knit your souls together, he says. So why should we be so attached to our own ideas when unity is far, far more important? It's way up there, and our ideas, what does it really matter? So this is the fourth quality that we have of Abdu'l-Baha. I don't care what you do for the faith. If you are not a unifier, you're not serving the faith at all. And every time we open our mouths, if we're on an assembly and we're speaking to the community, we have to think, is this creating unity? Is the manner in which I speak it, is it creating unity? I don't care if it's right or not. It could be right, but am I doing it in a loving way that's creating unity? And when I'm speaking to my assembly, the same thing. Does it matter if I'm right? Well, it's good to be right, but it doesn't matter if I'm not creating unity. In other words, everything we do, every action we take in our Baha'i communities, the first thing we should ask ourselves, is this conducive to unity?